Hey everyone, I'm Carina Nickerson. I'm really happy to be coming to you today to share with you my number one go-to for self-care and for rest. And it is beyond a shadow of a doubt, meditation. Meditation is my go-to practice for like unhooking from the painful habits of heart and mind that can keep me stuck in overwhelm and exhaustion. And so I want to unpack for you a little bit like the three essential keys, I think, to think about when we're considering a meditation practice and why it's so helpful in feeling, I call it more radiant, and just feeling more aligned with the radiant self. You know, inside of all of us, I really believe there is a true you, a true me, and it's called by a lot of names: the authentic self, the high self, I call it the radiant self. But there is this aspect of your being that when you're connected to it, you're connected to flow, you're connected to creativity, you have access to your greatest potential. And all of us, don't you want to be in contact with that as much as possible? I know I do. So, what gets in the way of that? Well, a lot of times it's all the garbage in your mind. There's something called the negativity bias, and you've probably heard of this, but I'm just going to unpack it briefly here. We are predisposed because of our nervous systems, and I think, think about that. We have a nervous system. To survive, our species had to be hypervigilant and scan the horizon for danger. And so it behooved us to be anxious, on edge, looking out for danger. And in the past it did. And now it doesn't work for us so well to have these hyperactive, hypervigilant nervous systems. And our brain, our thinking, the way we think just automatically is tied to that. So we are hardwired to focus on what's wrong. And this benefited our survival, in the past. Now that's like the bad news about, the negativity bias, but then there's the good news of neuroplasticity. So because we have the capacity to open up our attention to include things like gratitude, to include things like, just letting in the good. Like we have this capacity to do that, and when we do it consciously, which meditation practice really helps us to be able to do, because we're able to catch ourselves more easily when we're in like negative thought loops, for example, where, meditation helps us be much more conscious of the space between what we think and what we do, between what we think and who we sense ourselves to be. And so because we have the negativity bias, it really makes sense, doesn't it, that we would have a practice that would help us create more space between, our sense of ourselves and our thoughts would be helpful, right? Viktor Frankl has that famous line, something to the effect of, between the stimulus and the response, there's a space. And in that space lies your ability to respond. And in that response lies your freedom. And so if I am always thinking I'm my thoughts, and my thoughts are largely negative because of the negativity bias, makes sense that I'd be feeling pretty crappy, right? And so to train the attention away from thinking is, in my opinion, in my belief, an essential aspect of us really having sustainable happiness. And when I say happiness, I don't mean necessarily just the emotion of like joy, which is wonderful. I mean, but emotions are fleeting, they come and go. And to be too hooked on any emotion is a recipe for folly, because emotions come and go. You can't hold them. What I'm speaking to is a deeper happiness, a deeper sense of okayness that is beyond my emotions, beyond whether I'm happy or sad. It's like this trust in our essential enoughness and our essential okayness. And meditation practice can really help us to cultivate that. Because as you sit and you notice your thinking and you become the witness to your thoughts, and you use an anchor so that you're aware of when you get lost in thinking. Often the anchor that's used is the breath. Then every time I come back to the breath and I notice that I've been thinking, I'm opening up that space. And I become more the witness, that one that's aware. You know what I mean? So I might, meditation isn't about trying to stop your mind from thinking at all. Like, good luck with that. Your mind's always, like, you've always got thoughts going on. It's just the way our thinking minds are, And so, but just to notice that, like, notice the thinking and notice the thoughts, and wow, I'm having a disaster thought, or wow, look at that, there's a fantasy, it's just this sort of like curiosity even that we cultivate as we sit in meditation. So the three essential pieces of meditation that I like to consider are first let be, and then let go, and then let in. So the first piece of our practice is let be. There's no attempt or need to fix or change your experience. You don't have to change the emotions that you have in your heart. You can be happy and meditate. You can be sad and meditate. You can be at ease and meditate, and you can be fearful and meditate. Let be the heart. Let be the mind. The mind can be really scattered and discursive, or it can be settled and still. It doesn't matter. Let it be. It's this essential attitude that we have of letting be our experience, without any idea that it's wrong, right? Because oftentimes you might have an emotion like anxiety and think it's wrong. So it's this like allowing of what our experience is without making ourselves wrong. And then I like to say that when we let be, we just sit, actually, before I go into that, we just sit with no agenda, right? We just sit simply being. We use our breath, as I mentioned earlier, as an anchor. So if you notice when you get lost in a story, you come back to breath. And that'll happen. It can happen many times. It can happen 10,000 times. It's okay. It's part of the practice. And then when we let be, letting go happens naturally. Sometimes we can seek to let go as a doing. And when we're doing that, actually, we're at war with ourselves. So when we let be, letting go happens naturally. And then the third piece is let in. So you begin to let in whatever feels good or nourishing or true in the moment. So right now I'm letting in the feeling of my breath and the greenery outside my window that I'm looking outside. There's trees sort of blowing in the wind. And that's the last piece, is just letting in whatever in the moment, again, we sense is good or nourishing or true. So that's my number one go-to for recharge and reset, is meditation practice. I hope this served you, and I'm sending you so much love and many, many blessings. Namaste.